get started. I want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone. Everyone that's here today, and for many people that wanted to come but couldn't be here today. I actually had to write this down because
All right. Yeah. All right.
All right, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I had to write this down because when I talk about it, it's funny how you can be so strong and you can take every pain in the world, but you see somebody you love suffer. Bring you to your knees. So bear with me as I read this. That's okay. I want to say thank you to the Stanmore Funeral Home, first of all, for the kindness that you showed my family. Thank you, Charles, for how you, Mama. Miss Brenda, I won't even say anything to you because it's cheaper. I want to thank the Church of Galilee, and I want to thank Mount Olive for thinking of my mother and honoring her with your generosity and your kindness today.
Yes, sir.
And I want to especially thank all the pastors that took your time to come. And I want to thank you for the spirit that you came in to share in this moment, which was required to testify to the life that my mother lived.
Right.
I never speak at funerals. That's why I wasn't on the program, because nobody thought that I would. But you know, my mother, she's at work already and her body's not even in the ground. If you actually know my mother, you know her spirit, you know exactly what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
My mama wanted me to say a few words. And I don't mind, and I hope you don't mind, that I wrote them down, because it's been difficult to convey the range of emotions I have, but not in the way you might think. It's difficult because more than anything, I know that the person who would fight for me, I know the person who would give their last for me, I know the person that would die for me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know she's not here anymore to depend on. But what would be surprising to know is what's unusual about it being difficult is that I don't need for her to be here for me, because she taught me everything I needed to know.
Yes, sir.
And I realize now, having 3 beautiful children, that was her purpose. My mother's name was Tommie Zell Osborne Johnson, and she taught me to obey God. She taught me to put my faith in Jesus, and above all things, she taught me even on days I mourn like today, she taught me to surrender to his will and accept her death or my own, if it is his will. She taught me to fear no man on earth, and I walk this earth without fear, because she taught me to fear God first. I can tell you that teaching that to me gave me the freedom to live my life the way I do. And I can never say thank you enough, Mama. I'm a free man. I'm free in every sense of the word.
Well,
Because you gave me every word that made sense. And you gave me the only word that mattered. You gave me the word of God. Thomas L. Osborne Johnson taught me to never leave my children. Tommie Zell Osborne Johnson told me to never leave him no matter what. Her name was Tommie Johnson. And she told me to love them like she loved me. There's something to be said about a singular focus. A singular focus to love no matter what. She told me to give them wisdom like she gave me. She told me to make sure that they know math, they know science. She was a teacher. Make sure they know history, but more than anything, she told me to make sure they know the Lord.
Yeah.
And what I know from her is that the less perfect you are, Lord have mercy, the better advice that is. And that's turned out to be, for me, especially true, someone who definitely fits in the less perfect category. I see Brother Greg in the back. He can attest to this. Seeing how you turned out as a man for being such a rotten kid. It's always allowed me to have hope for myself. Some of y'all from Mount Olive might not remember little Timothy McNeil, who's a reverend right now. I wish he was here because I'd shout him out too. Reverend Palmer, you did good. Your boys. Boy, I tell you, with my parents, boy, they had a little trouble. I'm told that the Lord in that context looks out for babies and fools, and I'm fortunate in this life that I've been both from time to time. But the reason I'm here is because while there are 5 million scriptures in the Bible that I could quote that she loved, the thing that brings me up to this podium isn't anything in the Bible particularly, but it was really a speech that Ted Kennedy gave about his brother Bobby at Bobby's funeral. And what was particularly poignant to me was he said that, this is a quote, "My brother need not be idolized or enlarged in death beyond what he was in life. He should be remembered simply as a good and a decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, who saw suffering and tried to heal it, who saw war and tried to stop it. Those of us who loved him, who take him to his resting place, pray that what he was to us and what he wished for others will someday come to pass across the world." And while that passage is not from the Bible, it rings true to my spirit because often in funerals we seek to enlarge the person who dies, want to extol their virtues, their greatness in ways which belie the truth about the full measure of the person. We don't want to say the full measure because we tend to think the full measure isn't going to reflect well, or it's going to prolong a lasting memory of the person in a way that isn't so perfect. But in my mother's case, like what Ted Kennedy wanted for his brother Bobby Kennedy, I don't want my mother to be enlarged or given a sainthood in death more than she was in life. My mother to be plain with you could be a pain in the you-know-what sometimes. She could be insecure, and she didn't always take the many reams of advices that she would like to give. But when I reflect on it, I'm wondering, what's the point of Jesus if he didn't save us from ourselves? Why do we need him if we're perfect? And what are we saying we don't include the full measure of the man or the woman? What are we saying about the power of redemption and the evolution of our flesh to the spirit? Leaving off the full measure, it seems to me, doesn't allow for the less than perfect to understand that someone else has the same problems. Someone else had the same troubles. Someone else had the same insecurities. And Jesus still saved them. God still loved them. And they still made it to heaven trying to do better and better every day all the way to the end.
Right.
What is the end of the race without the race? What she was in life, Tommie Zell Johnson, Don't enlarge it. Tommie Johnson, what she was in life was a teacher. Reverend Dunlap, Reverend Palmer, you knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What she was in life
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
was a teacher.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I found, even in her spirit, she's still one today.
All right.
My mother, Tommie Johnson, like Bobby Kennedy, was a woman who saw wrong and tried to right it her entire life. She fought every battle she could fight until the last day of her life, and I mean the last minute of her life.
Yeah.
My mother, Tommie Johnson, was a fighter,
Yes, sir.
and you're going to be fighters too.
All right.
My mother, Tommie Johnson, saw suffering in hospitals. She saw physical ailments with people with emotional and spiritual ailments, and she brought food and prayer to heal them.
All right.
Like Bobby Kennedy was, as Senator Kennedy said, a good and decent man. My mother was a good and decent woman of a complicated makeup, but you be sure there was nothing but good and decency in my mother. And when she saw suffering, there was a day in her life she didn't try to heal it. To say that she was more than a teacher, to suggest that she needed to be more, is to belittle how important a teacher is. It is of note that the Son of Man came to earth in the presence of a teacher.
Yeah.
Not a football player,
All right now.
not a soccer player,
Look out. Look out.
not a rapper, not a millionaire or a general,
All right.
not even a famous man, but he came as a teacher.
Yeah.
And we know now, from the end until Barack Obama, a teacher can change the world. A teacher can lead a person to Christ. And in that regard, my mother was the finest that ever lived.
Yeah.
And I believe in my spirit what she wants today is to let us know that seeing wrong and trying to right it is a life's requirement.
Yes, sir.
Seeing suffering and trying to heal it is a life's requirement.
Yeah.
And if you're here to honor my mother, if that's the reason you came here today, it wasn't just the food. I wanted to say that she would want to be honored today, and how she would be honored today is for you to let her grandchildren know how important a teacher is to its people and its community. That's what my mother would want today. My children did not get to know my mother in life as she lived. It's but one of many deeply scarring sacrifices she named in the name of Christ for seeing wrong and trying to stop it. But if you honor my mother for her today, I'm asking you to teach them about her life. If you love my mother and you came to honor her, this is what she wants. She wants us all to know that where there is wrong, spend your life fighting it. Where there is suffering, spend your life trying to heal it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you need not be perfect. You need not be the best looking. You need not be the one with the most money. And you may, in some moments, you may not be good enough or worthy for even the faintest of praise. But when the moment and the hour comes, summon in yourself to fight injustice where you see it. Fight hunger where you see it. And let death come to you before you leave your children.
Yes.
Let death come to me before I leave mine.
Yeah.
You may not be in some moments good enough to even be worthy of the faintest praise, as I said. But let death come to you before you give your soul to anyone but God. And before you leave this earth, seek this as a part of your life's mission. And when you have the courage to fight, when you're afraid of nothing, when you see suffering and you feel inclined to turn away, when you see a homeless person, when you know that somebody's hurt but you're a little too tired and you don't feel like it, think of the lessons of my mother's life and do what I'll do, which is try to heal it.
All right.
Do what I'll do, which is try to fight when I see it's not right. Do what I do. If it's for the innocent or for the poor that can't fight for themselves, do what I do and ease the suffering in ways which God gives you or me the gifts to do. And if you want to honor her, if you came to say goodbye, if she meant anything to you, then fight when you see wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the words and all of the flowers, God bless you all. They mean everything. But when you land in the casket, it's not as important as you might think it is when you bind it.
All right.
What my mother wants is for what she taught to last beyond her physical body.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
She just wants you to not be afraid to speak truth to power, to fight when you see suffering, and to heal. Because if you do, the life she's been teaching will mean something. Johnny, Sophie, Lexi. Sophie's asleep. Johnny, you want to stand up for me? You and Alexa stand up? Come on, baby. Satan has no dominion here.
All right.
Oh, no.
These are my mother's grandchildren.
All right.
The tallest one, so beautiful, is Johnny. The young one, so handsome, is Alexa. The small one asleep is Sophie. And she and I are all my mother leaves here on this world and what's left of her. And while I have many memories, and they don't have so many, I want them to have one today. So everybody in this church, if you don't mind, to repeat after me. Your mother, Tommie Johnson, was a teacher. She taught school. And she taught love. We're all here today. Because your grandmother was special. She was loved by God. And even better, she was chosen by God. To help people. For a whole life. You're what's left of her. You don't need pictures. You have a love. You have a blood. You have a God. We love Sister Johnson. So that means we love you. Fight for what's right. Grandma Tommie is inside you. Be good and decent. And love the Lord. Amen. God bless you.
Hallelujah.